That's enough of that crap. Welcome to Naked Zombie Paranormal Radio with your hosts, Brad Scott and Woodsy.
It is the 3rd of July 2011 and you are listening to Naked Zombie Paranormal Radio. I'm your host Brad Scott, and tonight I have someone very, very special in the cardboard box. And she actually come all the way into the studio to talk to us tonight. Now, this young lady, she's written a book called Explanations of the Extraordinary. She's also a expert on the occult and is a former witch, practicing witch. And she also happens to be my little sister. So, Kylie, welcome to Naked Zombie Paranormal Radio.
Thanks, Brad. Good to be on the show.
No worries, sis. Love having you here. And I thought that took a few people by surprise there, having my younger sister come on and knowing what she used to be.
Yeah, well, I'm sure a few people will be surprised by that. It's like coming out of the witch closet, isn't it?
It
the
is,
broom closet, as they call it.
The broom closet, that's it. Look, I just like to... the reason I brought Kylie onto the show tonight, the simple fact is because the whole paranormal field has been running deep within the Scott and the Phillip clan for centuries.
Yes.
Hasn't it?
Oh, that's correct. I mean, if you look at your website, ghosthuntersaustralia.com.au, and the articles are written about the history of the Scott and Phillips legacy, you see there's actually a long line of persons of great interest to this field.
I mean, that's to say the least, isn't it? I mean, that's a bit odd.
Yeah, so it's just kind of natural that we ended up the way we did.
So. See, basically what tonight's show was about, Kylie's the other side of what I do. I'm very much the researcher, the skeptic in a lot of terms, and very much got my head sort of focused on the what ifs and the maybes, where Kylie is more of the spiritual side, the more sort of ingrained with the women's side of the family when it came to that type of thing. Now, our grandmother, Elaine Phillips, was a very well-known psychic in Australia in a day. She used to read out the Trivial Pursuit questions before they were answered.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I'd say answer them before they were read out.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. We'd be in the kitchen playing Trivial Pursuit, and she'd be 2 rooms away. Mind you, she was in about 73 at the time when she was living with us, and so before the question was even asked, she would just yell out the answer from 2 rooms away.
She was a lovely lady.
I don't know. She was definitely
entertaining,
a force of nature.
Yes. She used to make other people in nursing home cry on a regular basis.
I loved my grandmother, as did you, Brad. And she was a very hard woman to understand, and it's ironic that I turned out to be so much like her. So I feel sorry for my grandkids right now. That's all I can say. But yeah, she was...
I just feel sorry for her brother. I mean, we're talking about that much. Anyway, so look, basically what we're going to talk about tonight is, look, because Kylie is that side of the family, I thought it was very important to bring her in because... With the Scott and the Phillips clan, I mean, my sister's is a Jegou now, and she's married, and she's got a beautiful little girl.
I wouldn't marry anyone unless they had an interesting last name.
She's got an interesting name, and he's an interesting bloke, your husband.
Well, he must be. He married me.
No, I love my brother-in-law. But what we're going to do tonight is, we're getting off track again as usual, because it's me and her, and we're going to be doing this all night, is we're going to talk about the witchcraft side of it first, sis. I mean, growing up with you, right, and the stuff that... okay, let's go back talking about Gladstone.
Yep.
80 Wood Street in Gladstone, Central Queensland, old Housing Commission house, built in the 50s. It was a weird bugger of a place, wasn't it?
Yeah, the things that we used to see as kids. I mean, like I remember doing things like, I remember one night Mum let me watch a telethon or something. I don't know why that I would have been young and watching a telethon on TV, but it was Gladstone. It was sort of early 80s.
That was our entertainment.
We only had two channels, so a telethon with all the celebrities of the day was just, it was almost like seeing the Oscars, really. The glamour. But anyway, seriously though, I remember one night she let me actually stay up to watch it, and I actually fell asleep on a mattress in the middle of the lounge room. And I remember waking up because even though it was the middle of summer, it was freezing cold, absolutely freezing cold. Like you could see your breath cold. And I could hear people talking in the lounge room, and I'm just like, but like no one's there. And the moonlight was just coming in, and you could actually see shapes on the wall of actual people, and it was pretty eerie because it almost looked like there were these things slithering down the wall. It was almost very uncomfortable feeling. And that's actually probably one of my first experiences of that house.
But we used to have doors open up on their own. We used to have the knobs on the stereo. We're talking back the old TV
turning on by itself.
Yeah, I mean, like the old black and white TV with the old push button on off switch. Remember that?
Yeah.
And we had the old record player that used to just kick in and start playing what was ever on there at the time.
Village People, I remember that.
Yeah,
that was
and the Travelling Wilburys was my other favourite. But this is the thing now. From those early days of us growing up in that environment, I went one way and basically you went the other.
Well, it was more actually, my inclination was due to my grandmother actually more than anything. She intrigued me to say the least, and she used to read all these books like The World's Most Infamous Murders and The World's Greatest Disasters, and very morbid sense of humour. And I don't know, when she died when I was 15, I sort of was curious to where she was coming from, and it was actually a couple of the books that was left to me. I realised that there was a lot more to our grandmother than a lot of people knew at the time when she was alive, and that made me wonder, could it be a genetic thing? Is it hereditary? Am I also like her? Am I destined to be a witch, basically? I mean, it's not a topic I'm particularly comfortable talking about.
But I dragged her in anyway because she hasn't had a choice. I'm still bigger than her.
So...
But the thing is, Kylie, when we look at it this way now, my earliest days remembering you get into the witchcraft side of it. I mean, I was basically very uncomfortable with it. You know that from the starters.
A lot of people are, and the thing is, I suppose I can only really talk about it now because it's something, I've hung up my pointy hat some years ago, and it's part of my past. It's, I'm not ashamed of it. I did some amazing things. I saw some amazing things during that time. The experience definitely changed me. But if I was still practicing now, I don't think I'd be able to talk about it because it is one of those things that, like any religion that people don't know about or unsure of, it brings up a whole spectrum of unease. I mean, what you don't know, you're often scared about. And the thing is, I kind of, when I was practicing, found myself to be a bit of a champion for those practicing witchcraft to show that you can be normal, you can be a great person, you can have a sense of humour, you can have a normal job, but it's just, you've got, I don't know, I guess a hobby or a portion of your life that is a little bit different to some people. I mean, some people watch chick flicks, some people collect stamps, some people like watching late movies in their underwear and Doc Martens, but...
Shh, we talked about that. No. You said we laugh the same as well.
Okay.
Look, basically when I meant by I wasn't, because I didn't understand it, if you know what I mean, like I was the other side of the coin. I was very much grab me torch, grab me voice recorder and off I'd go type thing, where you were practicing an art which I just confused the bugger out of me. Because, let me be honest with you, I mean, look, you walk into your room at home, and you had a whopping big pentagram drawn on the floor, painted on the floor. And
it's still there.
It's still there. No, there's nowhere to lie. And when I stay over at your house, I get her to remove all the dolls from the room. I'm deadly serious. Look, last time I stayed with my sister when I first come back from New Zealand, I made her husband, remove all the dolls from the bedroom because they would creep me out because I swear they'd move during the night. But her house was like that.
We joked about actually putting a doll's head or something like that in the bed with you so you'd wake up.
Oh, jeez. I tell you what, your house freaked me out at times. But growing up and seeing you do this type of thing, and I was fascinated by it. But like a lot of other people, I was a bit, not scared, but I was a bit off-put by it. But now I'm a bit older and I understand things more myself. And this is what the listeners need to know is you can, whatever someone's religion or background or whatever their beliefs are, in whether they practice witchcraft or not, I don't care. They're still very much an individual person as well. I look at myself, I have a normal job. My sister has a normal job. She has a beautiful little girl, married, great house. We've got it all worked out for ourselves. But you'll be surprised who is out there. And what are some of the things that... We're getting the cult in the second half of the side of it and about your book. But what I am interested to find out about is what were some of the things that you used to do inside of... Now, I know what you are, but Melissa's a code. Were you the good witch or the bad witch? I think you're a bit of in between, actually. Well, like, if anyone got in your way, you weren't hesitant in showing your colours, were you? Like see, a poor suffering brother. Countless times I'd wake up with pillows.
They say, they've said, there's actually a line in this movie called The Craft, where this wise witch says that true magic is neither black nor white. It is like nature. It is grey. There is good and evil in nature. And that's the same with true witchcraft. Now, some people might dispute that, particularly those who say that they are genuinely white witches and only practice for the good. That's the majority of them. Me, on the other hand, I would definitely say I was a grey witch. I wouldn't say I was a black witch or a white witch. I had these... When I first started, I was quite young. So from the age of 15, and when you're 15 years of age, I actually probably wouldn't recommend that you try this sort of endeavour, simply because the fact that you do need a level of emotional maturity. And I know when you're 15, you think you do have that you can fall in love just like an adult, that you can make decisions like an adult, and basically it's not until you even reach to the age of 18 that you go, hey, I know a lot more at 18 than I did when I was 15. And I did some really stupid things when I was 15. And because it's exciting when you first start.
Yeah, I remember when I was 15, I stole Dad's ute. Remember that? And went for a joyride around the street.
But that's the thing. I mean, like, I think about all the other decisions I made as a 15-year-old. I mean, I used to drink a lot, and I used to wag school with you a lot.
Oh, no, Mum, honestly. Now, mind you, our mother does listen.
No.
Mum does listen to the show, and Dad, I never took your ute at 15, I promise. Seriously, the man still scares me to this day because he's just big and scary.
Yes.
But I know what you're saying, but because basically what you're saying is that you sort of grew into it, didn't you, over the years? And it's like anything you do. As the older you get, the more efficient you get at. But what I'm sort of more interested in, what my listeners are interested in, what was some of the stuff you used to do?
Okay.
Yeah, and that's what we want to get down to. I mean, we can go into we all know from 15 onwards, you make mistakes, everyone does. But what was some of the stuff you used to get up to?
Well, I actually had a collective of friends who also were quite talented in their spiritual aspects, I guess. I mean, I had a friend who could see auras in all their colours. I could never do that. And I had a friend who was a bit more of an empath, and not to make it sound like we're part from the Charmed miniseries, it's nothing like that. But my particular talent was I could manifest things, meaning that if I cast spells or gave it such great intent, things would actually come to fruition. And the thing is, you don't ask for, like, stupid things like, oh, I want to win the lotto and stuff like that, because they basically say that you can't really use it for self-gain because,
it'll just backfire on the end.
Oh, yeah. And trust me, there were times that I attempted to use it for self-gain or for some form of mild retribution, and I tell you what, it sure bit me in the ass every time. And you think after first or second time you'd learn, but no. So
that's just life in general, isn't it?
So what I would basically do, I started off with the standard Wicca, which is nature-based. It doesn't glorify any false gods or anything. It's all basically about nature. It's about the north, south, east, and west, the elements, sort of conjuring up. But basically, what you're doing is you're not necessarily using any outside forces. As probably people have come to know, there's a thing called The Secret, which I'm not saying is true, but it's one of those things that if people do things with intent, if they live their lives with intent, if they feel that they deserve something, if they already feel that they're, that their life is great, then things seem to happen that way.
So it was a more positive aspect for you at the end of the day. So as
it's
you
empowering.
grew...
But the thing is, it's not till you're older you sort of realise you don't actually necessarily need witchcraft or practising magic to have your life that way. Witchcraft or practising Wicca or Kabbalah, which I later got into, is an excellent form of channeling this intent, to make the universe pay attention to you and say, hey, look, I'd like some nice things in my life. I like some nice things for other people. And I'm not talking about jewelry. I'm talking about
lifestyle and stuff like that.
Clarity of mind, getting over a bad relationship, stopping someone...
Good, I could have used that.
No, but
But how many times did I bugger up in the relationship when I was younger? Now she tells me, great.
No, well, but the thing is, the only real downside, I guess, to practising witchcraft is the fact that if you ask for something, you're more than likely going to get it. So you better actually make sure that's what you want. I remember this, one person came to me because she was having a lot of difficulty getting a house. She found that, she was heavily pregnant. She was with a guy. They weren't married. It was back in the days when they weren't really giving a lot of money to people. And no one would give her a mortgage. And, she had about 2 months to go before the baby was due. He'd only been in his job for a short amount of time. Basically, everything was against them. And she came to me and said, look, Kylie, I really, really, really would like for someone to say, yes, we'll give you a home loan. You can get a house. And I said, you sure that's what you want? And she went, yes. So that happened. So I did my thing. It very quickly came true. But then a case of she decided, after living with him for 2 weeks in this house, that she didn't really love him and that she wanted him out.
Oh, God,
it was just a huge mess, and I'm not going to name names.
No, of course not. We don't do that.
But it was just a complete farce, and it turned out that if they hadn't have gotten that loan, because that's pretty much what the universe was saying, look, give it a second, guys, because I don't think this is going to work out for you. That's what the universe was trying to say. But sort of, I came in and intervened. She got what she wanted, but it turned out to be not the best thing.
So it sort of backfired in a lot of ways at the same time.
Yeah, see, that's why I'm saying that sometimes it's actually better, even if you think that things aren't going your way. It's almost like if things aren't going your way, the universe is trying to tell you that you're going in the wrong direction and that maybe you should change where you're headed. And it's not until you sort of realise this that you're not meant to be in control of every single aspect of your life. And just sort of give into that you sort of realise maybe trying to sort of get the upper hand isn't always the best thing. So
okay, so basically you're saying in a nutshell is that when you practice the art of witchcraft, what you're doing is you're actually practicing something that may affect the outcome of what a way things should be.
Exactly.
That's why I'm just trying to break this down for the listeners in a layman's term, especially guys who don't practice the art themselves, like myself, because I know nothing about this subject. I've never having a young and growing up in a family environment where the paranormal wasn't the big scary boogeyman, so to where like we had things happen in our houses all the time growing up. That's just the way it was with us. But I know for self, like when I went into your practice room, like where you practice your art and that, and I call it an art. To me, it is an art form, and I have a lot of. I don't knock it, because I don't understand it, and it's not my place to say.
Yeah.
But when I walk in there, you got the sense of. It was so different to every other room in that house. Even your bedroom when we were kids was, when you first started doing it, the whole room dynamic changed. When you started going to ruin stones and the tarot cards started to come out. And I must say that those tarot, my sister bought me tarot cards for my Christmas last year, and they're still sitting up on the box up there. I'll pull them out one day. But I think they're fantastic because I love that sort of thing because it's always interests me. But so in basically to run things down is that when I walked into these places, the whole dynamic changes.
Yeah, and
you changed as a person as well. Because this is first-hand experience from a family member's point of view. You went from being a typical teenage girl to jumping. It was like a mental level above me, even though I'm older than you by a few years. That whole aspect. I know girls mature quicker than boys, but it was a different side of you again, which was quite interesting. And sometimes, to be honest, it was quite scary at times, because Kylie would give you this look when you're mucking up or you're giving a hard time. It would literally stop traffic.
I never meant to ever scare anyone, but I must admit I have been guilty of that. I remember. My husband was in a band and it didn't work out, and that's fair enough, and they split up. And this guy called Slav, he actually put an ad in the paper wanting a new lead singer, and he made some derogatory comment, no expletives. I can't believe they actually printed it, because I know I can't say it on this radio station, but it really annoyed me, the fact that anyone knew my husband was in that band would have read that and gone, hey, this is obviously about him. So I actually rang him up and I said, Slav, I see you've put a new ad in the paper. And he goes, yeah, what's it to you? I said, I just thought, sort of inclined that my husband was, a such and such and a such and such, and didn't really appreciate that. And he goes, what are you going to do about it? I said, Slav, have you ever... So I have to tone it down. Oh, God, if she's anything like me. Said, Slav, have you ever annoyed a witch before? Something to that effect, I said. And he went, oh. Like, he was like, oh, that's right. That's what you do, I forgot. And it was like, I just went, enjoy. And then I hung up. And the funny thing was a year later, me and my husband were actually in the Maya Centre. And... we were going up an escalator and Slav was behind, and by this point I'd gone from black hair to blonde, so he wouldn't have noticed me. But he's going, Darren, like this, trying to call out to him. And I turned around and he realised who it was, and Darren says all he saw was Slav dust.
Yeah, he literally took off. It's like that guy.
I've never had a grown man run away from me before, but...
It's like that poor bloke that a few years ago, Kylie, I think early 20s or late teens, they had that bloke that hit mum in the car. And this is my family for you, and this is why we're all sort of... This guy hits mum. This guy tries to take off. My sister leaps out of the car, jumps on the bonnet of this guy's car or something, and he wasn't going anywhere.
Yes, you can get my action figure in at Kmart or Big W.
The head does a full 360. It's cool. No, but that's great. So I mean, these are some interesting stories and points. That now when you actually practice the art itself, and we talked about the Wiccan side of it and the different types of side of witchcraft there is. But what are some of the equipment that you use? What's some equipment that most say we're going back to our ancestors back in the 1400s, and we had a wizard in our family tree, didn't we? Michael, wasn't it?
Yes, Michael the Wizard.
We had a Michael the Wizard.
Oh, sounds very wizardry, doesn't it?
Hello, I'm Michael the Wizard. Wasn't he Irish or Scottish?
It's almost like that Monty Python thing saying, "Oh, sorcerer of fire and brimstone, how do they be called?" And go, "Some know me as Tim." So Michael,
Tim the Wizard.
yeah, Michael the Wizard didn't really.
But as I say, we had a wizard in our family. I mean, but this is going back to the 1400s. In was it Ireland or Scotland?
Scotland.
Scotland, yeah. So that's his last name. Scott comes from Scotland. There you go. But what I'm saying is, so say taken back from our great grandfather or uncle, whoever it was, who was Michael the Wizard, to what modern witches use today. Is there much difference in techniques and equipment, or is it all sort of just still carried on?
No, although some things have remained very traditional. I find a lot of people who practice magic these days, which is actually more of a broader term, they tend to use the best of everything. It's a bit like anyone in life. It's sort of like, while they might have been baptized a Catholic, they might have some sort of put little Buddhas everywhere or whatever. So everyone's usually tend to meld these sorts of things. So say, for example, myself, for most part, I practiced Kabbalah, which is a form of Jewish mysticism. And we're not talking about just putting a little red bit of string around my wrist like Madonna. We're talking about practical Kabbalah, which was also practiced by Aleister Crowley, a brilliant guy, and some would say quite mad. But I also had elements of Wicca in there as well. You know, being a female, I tended to want to use the more intuitive, natural sides of it. So, so the things is like I'd cast the four watchtowers or the four elements, which was air, wind, fire, and earth. And I'd do things like sprinkle salt around and stuff and cleanse a circle, and I'd use smudge sticks but in all essence, these things are technically props. I mean, I had everything, and I still have it. I mean, I haven't thrown it away. I mean, the black-handled dagger, the athame. I had cauldrons. I had basically.
So you had the whole works and jerks. I mean, you basically walked into this room, and actually it was picture. All you could imagine was all the stuff in a cave somewhere, and there's this. Sorry, this is hanging on witch gun. Yeah, well,
that's
she is
actually
a lovely looking lass. But that's the thing. It's you walk into this room and literally you had everything. I mean, practicing which could want. And this is what I'm interested also hear from the listeners as well as the people who listen to this who do practice the art or something like this. If you have any questions for Kylie, please, if you jump onto the website www.brad-scott.com, where you're hearing this now, no doubt. Go to the contacts page and you just put under witchcraft or something like that, and you have a question for my little sister. I'm sure I can get her, email address and details, and I'll get her to contact you back. Mm-hmm. I mean, even though she doesn't practice anymore, as far as I'm aware, she's a mum, is that sort of thing. But if you have any questions, I'm sure you'd love to answer them and stuff like that. Now, we're going to go for a quick break. Mm-hmm. I've got to throw a couple of ads in here. So when we come back, we're going to keep going with Kylie and talk about the witchcraft. You lucky people. And the witchcraft and the occult, and we'll take it from there. Are you looking for a professional writer who deals with bid management and document production services? Then you need to contact Chris Childers. Chris Childers is a professional tender writer with over 10 years experience, working in such industries as diverse as civil construction, recruitment, insurance, development aid, IT&T, and the public sector. TenderWrite offers a specialist client-focused service, producing professional and high-quality professional bids, tenders and proposals for a wide range of clients. So contact TenderWrite today on 07 3482 2792 or email chris.childers@tenderwrite.com.au. G'day, I'm Brad Scott from Naked Zombie Paranormal Radio. Here at Naked Zombie, we can offer your company some great advertising at very reasonable rates. If you want your website advertised on my site, by all means, send through the details and we'll have a look at it. And if you want an ad made up for you, or you already got an ad that you'd like to put out there, Naked Zombie is doing extremely well as far as being an online radio show. So if you want some advertising, go to www.brad-scott.com, check out the contacts page, leave us your details and I'll be in touch. And we are back. I am Brad Scott, the host of Naked Zombie Paranormal Radio, and tonight in the cardboard box, as we all know, and if you just joined us, is Kylie Jegou, which happens to be my younger sister, and we are discussing witchcraft, and soon I think we'll be discussing bits and pieces about the occult. And this is part of your book and research that you've been doing for many, many years.
Yes.
Very proud of my little sister. She's such a go-getter. Take like a tiger.
Not quite.
That sounds a bit odd. Do you have banjos? Yeah, I know we're from a small country town. Don't go there. This is wrong. Anyway, so I have Kylie in the cardboard box, as you know. I call it the cardboard box as a studio because it's so small and pokey. And
it's very ultra glamorous, really.
It is.
Yes. I just love it.
Stop it.
I love the fact that we're served by half-naked men with drinks and stuff. Cocktails. What?
Oh, Kylie, stop it. Now they're going to presume that nothing is wrong. No, that's Wadsy's job, and he's not here tonight.
Joking.
He's the one who shows up in little Speedos and the gloves.
I knew I came on the wrong night.
I kept him home tonight.
I was promised.
Yeah, I know, I'm sorry. Anyway, let's come back to it. So basically what we were talking about beforehand was the witchcraft side and the different implements and tools used, because we're going back to it, So talking about the 1400s, about our great-grandfather Michael the Wizard, and then we're talking about yourself, who practice or used to practice witchcraft yourself, and the fact that if there's anyone out there who wishes to know more about the subject and would like to speak to Kylie, I'm sure she's happy to answer emails and stuff like that. Just don't bug her too much, otherwise she'll do something to me. So if you want to just continue on with that quickly before we go into the occult side of it, now I'd love to get you back on the show and discuss more about it, but we've only got an hour, so
That's okay.
From today's modern standard to what was like back then, is there anything majorly different about the art now?
I'd say so, actually, because although some traditions, as I said before, have remained alive, a lot of people tend to mix their practices. As I said before the commercial break, I tend to have used not just Wicca, which is nature-based, but also Kabbalah, which is a form of ancient Jewish mysticism. Now, what I'd suggest, if anyone was thinking of at least researching magic, probably the best practical book I've ever read was a book called Modern Magic. Now, magic spelt with a K at the end there, by Donald Craig. Now, he is a brilliant writer. Very matter of fact, nothing sort of mystical about him at all, but it shows how, it breaks down how to practice magic in the most purest sense. He does draw mostly on the ancient rites of that Jewish mysticism I was talking about, and it's probably more relevant to a lot of people practicing today. Of course, there's you have everyone's different. It's a personal journey, like any sort of religion, or even sort of what sort of hair product you use. It's very personal. Everyone has a different spin on it.
I personally don't use hair products.
Well, that's because you need hair, don't you?
It's getting there, leave it alone.
Oh, don't worry. I mean, I'm kind of like MacGyver. I have to use 5 different types of hair products just to make mine look like hair.
To keep that bounce. Anyway, look, going back a bit now, I'm going to ask you some questions on the rune stones.
Yes.
All right, because I know very little about them. I know that I've walked into a room where there were rune stones sitting up on a windowsill. I left the room for about 2 minutes. I came back and the stones had moved. And there was nobody else in the house. I wonder whose house that was.
No, I don't know who that is.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Anyway, so what's the go with the rune stones? Now, I've heard some pretty bad stuff about those stones. And not from you, but I just want to hear clarification on it for people who don't know about it.
Actually, rune stones, there's actually a little bit of debate about their origins. Some would say that they actually were invented and practiced by people such as the Druids. So we're talking medieval. But some say there's even Scandinavian influences. It's one of those things that it hasn't truly been pinpointed their true origin, and they have changed slightly over the years. Now, the reason why I like rune stones over, say, tarot cards is if you give a tarot reading, both can give you sort of like a guide to where your life is headed and stuff like that, if you're into that sort of thing. Tarot cards tend to be a bit more flowery. They give us sort of a more generalised, a bit like almost like a horoscope in a way, a generalised thing of this may or may not happen to you. Mind you, nothing against tarot cards or horoscopes, simply because of the fact that any tarot reading I've ever given has always been accurate. But when it comes to a runestone reading, it tends to get to the guts of things. It tends to say, this is what it's about, and it doesn't sugarcoat a lot of it. I had one instance where this woman was dating a friend of my husband's, and she basically wanted to know, where was their relationship heading. They're in a pretty good place at the time, and I did a 2-year projection for her via the runestones, and I basically said, I'm sorry, this says you're going to break up and you're going to move back to New Zealand. That's basically what it says. But when you're back in New Zealand, you'll actually know where your life's headed, and life will turn out the way you want it to.
So basically she got the big bom.
Yeah, and the thing is, I'm not, okay. The thing is, they always say that when you give a reading to someone, you should always, you have a duty of care, not to put the fear of God in them or anything. But it wasn't like you're going to develop encephalitis and your left leg's going to drop off. It was nothing like that. But the thing is, it's like, this guy was a friend of my husband's, and I had to tell his girlfriend that basically this is what the runes have told me. And you know what? It actually turned out to be true. And the thing is, some people will say, oh, that's because you gave her the reading, it played into the back of her mind
and subconsciously
and stuff like that. But the fact that she became so successful just by the act of moving back to New Zealand, I'm sure that had nothing to do with me.
Is it to do with the stones and that? Is it to do with do the stones feed off? I'm going to use this term with the universe, so to speak. How we've talked about the universe. You ask for good things from the universe, the universe come and think. Or they've got a magic all their own. They don't draw anything from anything else.
They actually, okay. The way I perceive tarot cards, for example, they work on the fact that they tend to read your emotions. So if you are in not a particularly happy state, you're going to get a bad reading.
Because you actually gave me a reading before I left to New Zealand. And part of that reading was, when I lived in New Zealand for 3 years, that big change was coming.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this is pretty freaky, I mean, I was never really into the whole tarot side of things and all the rest of it, because my sister did all that side of thing. But when I said, one night I think I was staying with you, and I said, yeah, go on and give us a reading. And basically, in a nutshell, you said within, I think it was in 6 months' time, you'll basically be moving on. I'm going, well, no, I've got a great job. I'm happy what I'm doing, blah, blah, blah. In 6 months' time.
Didn't I say that you would have a better time in New Zealand than Raylene?
Yeah, and she did, yeah.
You would adjust better.
I mean, my wife hated, she didn't hate New Zealand, she just hated the circumstances she was involved in. But I thrived in New Zealand because, let's face it, I'm such a great looking guy, and being Australian too, with my accent, the Kiwis love me,
Yes.
I think half of them thought I was South African because of my accent.
Yeah.
I got this accent, you see, and my mechanic thought I was South African. I do that really well, eh? You know?
That's okay, yeah.
Yeah, send all hate mail to me.
No, it's okay.
But no, that's right. I mean, that was part of it, yeah.
So tarot cards, like I said, tend to pick up a person's emotions. And I find that if you're in a pretty crappy place, by the time you get it, it's going to reflect in the tarot cards. Runestones, on the other hand, seem to be in tune in a deeper part of you. Even a part that's almost, would say, your subconscious. So it acts on a higher plane. So therefore, the runestone readings will always be not only more accurate, but you'll get a lot more from it.
Yeah, but you can't actually get rid of them, can you, at the same time?
What do you mean by that?
Well, you can't just sort of throw them in the bin. Cool. Oh, well, I don't think it's cool, personally. I think it's interesting.
Well, actually, it is pretty cool. I mean, it's one of those things that... I guess it's why some people like snakes, because they have an element of danger about them. Or not that I'm saying everything about witchcraft is dangerous. I mean, I've met witches who are as bad as dangerous as a fluffy bunny. But then again, if you're looking at...
if you look at Monty Python...
I know.
We're going, look, I'm a big sci-fi Monty Python geek, and trust me, there's nothing nice about a fluffy bunny. If you've ever watched Monty Python and the Holy Grail, you ask Tim the Magician... Was it
Sorcerer, I think.
Tim the Sorcerer, that's it. You ask Tim. So this thing will chew your bloody head off.
Yes.
This is this little fluffy rabbit, and he goes and with a holy hand grenade.
Yes. Yeah.
They shall love thy holy hand grenade thy fall.
Well, if you ever want to, know about the inner workings of Brad's mind,
that's how my mind works. If you like Monty Python and if you haven't seen Monty Python and the Holy Grail, and you come to the bunny scene, or if you have seen the bunny scene. Awesome.
So anyway,
we grew up on this stuff. So you were saying back to the occult. I think I'll just turn myself off now.
No. Well, trust me. People tune in to listen to you, not to me. Trust me.
No, I'm serious. I just listen to my fantastic guests.
Yeah. Anyway, I still study the occult. My favourite sort of stuff is actually I've started reading a lot of books written by Aleister Crowley.
Mm-hmm. And you want to explain to listeners, if they don't know who Aleister Crowley is? I mean, I know who he is. And he was a very, very dark individual.
Well, if you don't know who Aleister Crowley is, you must have been living under a rock.
Or you're not into the paranormal.
No, you don't even necessarily have to be.
No.
Because he became that notorious. Basically, yeah. I'm not going to explain to people who Aleister Crowley is. Look it up yourself. Google it. That's what it's there for. But he has written a series of brilliant books. The reason why I like his work so much is he not only delves into practical Kabbalah, but in a very mathematical sense. A lot of people don't realise that.
It's very deep, though, isn't it? It takes a lot of understanding to get through the book.
And
as a layman,
it's almost like you need an engineering degree.
You do. You basically with Aleister Crowley, and look, I know who he is because my sister and that she's got me on a few of his details and that.
So you say Crowley, I say Crowley.
Crowley, it's
you say Crowley, I say
Crowley. You say potato, and I say poltergeist. No. Sorry, folks. This is my little sister. We are like this all the time, and it shows, unfortunately. No, but his books. I mean, literally, you're right. You do need an engineering degree to understand them. A layman like myself who doesn't know who's into it.
Know your algebra.
Yeah, you got.
I failed at maths at school. I'm bloody
good at maths. I had trouble dealing with this guy's books.
That's the thing.
But they're so interesting.
I've been studying the occult actually studying it since I was 18. I started practicing when I was 15. Yep. Decided I didn't know what I was doing. Started studying at 18. And I even have difficulty digesting his work. But the thing is that people don't realise, and they talk about a feminine type of magic and a masculine magic. I tend to probably lean towards the masculine, which is basically... You've got
to have big cojones in other
words.
Yes. Look, I'm serious. You've got to have
my voice is pretty deep, so, I mean, it's only natural.
Actually, I've had to tamper with her voice to bring it up to like a female pitch. She's actually got a deeper voice than me.
It's true. Well,
name's Kylie.
So, off track. I was saying that simply because things like the Freemasons and everything used to practice this type of magic, and sort of the math space, the ones where you, sort of very intricate sort of graphs and hierarchies and other things like that. It's one of those things that's really hard to explain. You've actually got to, I'd say, attempt reading in one of his books. Now, if you can perfectly understand it, you're better than me. But I did prefer using that type of magic where it is a little less nature-based and more...
Basically, you've got to have big cojones. I mean, it's pretty... Look,
or slightly crazy.
Look, the Crowley's books are absolutely fantastic, all right? You got to be sort of really in a nice quiet room, no distractions, and listen, you get stuck in these books, you're lost in these books because they're so in-depth, which is fantastic. Now Crowley Was
Crowley.
it Crowley? So look, I call him Crowley. Look, this is why I pronounce
It's
words.
just an American way of saying his name. Yeah.
What mine is. I'm saying Americanised way.
Yes.
See, I know our fantastic American listeners would prefer that.
No, that's fair enough.
That's it, and that's what I'm sticking to, even though I have
Okay.
pronunciation problems. Anyway, so we're going back to Crowley now. He was one of the foremost experts on the occult.
He was, and it's actually a shame that he went a bit strange at the end. But that's probably more due to the fact that one of the later incantations he did was he actually invoked a rather nasty spirit into himself. And
We're talking about the demonic.
yes,
Yeah, we're talking about a demonic possession. Because basically he wanted to live forever in some terms, didn't he?
He was a bit power hungry, Alistair. But that's a thing with practicing magic is, and another reason why I don't do it anymore. See, the thing is with practicing magic, you have to be. It's good if you're spiritual. It's good if you have discipline. It's also good if you have empathy and you're naturally a lovely, lovely person. Those sorts of qualities make magic a natural thing for you. Me, on the other hand, I possess none of those qualities.
I can vouch for that. She is a mean, mean, evil girl.
So, no, I'm and even though you intend to practice it in its most purest form and what it's actually there for, if you know you can do these sorts of things and you've read all these books and you think
you know all the answers, you
think
don't.
you know all the answers,
You don't.
you get to the point where you want to, like, say, a surgeon doing medicine or a scientist, you can become a bit mad with it, and the fact that you want to try uncharted territory, you want to experiment with it. And while sometimes you can, like science or medicine, you can break ground and come up with something that no one had ever done before, you also run the risk of creating rather large tragedies and or making big mistakes. And it's when you're sort of someone that doesn't have that discipline or that inner balance within yourself. Because
in a nutshell, be careful what you ask for, because you might actually get it, and it won't work out in your best favour. But getting back to Crowley, how does he pronounce his name?
Crowley.
Crowley. Crowley.
Crowley.
Getting back to Alice there.
Yes.
Now, his viewpoint on the occult, and this is what we need to stick to, because as bad as I am, you go waffling on.
Yeah, I'm a waffler.
You're a waffler just like your brother.
Kids, this is what happens when you get old like us too. You waffle.
Bites me. I'm not that old yet. I'm not even 40.
You're older than me.
Stop it. Yeah, this is a brother-sister thing now. We're having a bit of a spat. Now...
The Botox ain't working, I tell you.
I'm special. This tastes like grape. What we're talking about was... Now, back to the occult.
Yes.
Okay. Now, some of the things that he wrote about... Okay, we'll leave Alistair for a minute. Okay, just check him out. He's a really, really interesting dude, to say the least. But what we need... What else have you looked into the occult and some of their practices and stuff like that, which I'm really interested to find out about. I mean, our audience is out there just chomping at the bit to know what side of the occult.
Well, that's the
is
thing.
there.
It's one of those things you can't really talk about in 1 hour because there's so many different aspects. I mean, if you look at something like something that was written in the 16th century by a guy called Levi. Now, he talked about how there was a pope, actual pope, that used to conjure up different demons, all in the name of Jesus. You'd be surprised. And did you know that the Catholic Church actually has 72 recognised demons on their books?
Wow.
You know, and that's the thing. I mean, there's so many different... But the thing is, that doesn't describe witchcraft. That's just one aspect of it. You have people that might run around naked around stones, but that doesn't describe it either. You have just the average Joes.
So what can you tell me about... So we go to the occult practicing, what we talk about the Hellfire Caves, over in England where they had the church on top and underneath you had heaven and hell, which was based the thing. If anyone's watched, Ghost Hunters or something like that would know, and these are fans of this sort of shows, that they built under this church in chalk was all these chambers, and one was a male symbol, one was a female symbol, had all these rooms where they used to practice occult acts. What are
that sort of stuff still goes on. But the thing is, those sorts of things existed because they had to literally do it underground. Because if you... Talking about early England, that paganism was the religion. It wasn't until the Romans had actually invaded and decided to bring sort of Catholicism with them and Christianity and everything like that. And what they did was they actually got things that were pagan and made them Christian. So they, like say for example, Christmas, that actually used to be a pagan ritual. So, not going off track here,
no.
A lot of those things, were practiced underground because increasingly practicing any sort of paganism, anything that wasn't Christianity, became a no-no. But the thing is, a lot of people that practice it weren't necessarily people who dwelled on the land. They were also very high up, royalty.
They were also like members of the cloth as well, weren't they?
Exactly. Because it's one of those things, it is hard to let go of something that's so identifying. And once you do experience that there is more out there than just, say, God or Jesus or even what you can see and perceive here, once you have felt that, once you have seen what someone who has practiced has seen, it's very hard to go back. It's very hard to be sort of like the average Joe that picks up their dry cleaning or, those things affect you. And even our practices today in Christianity, some of it, if you look back at it, actually stems back from paganism. Even when it comes to the size and dimensions of the altar and the material it's made out of. A non-conductive material, it's a particular measurement by a particular measurement, that matches a pagan altar. Uses of candles and particular days that are celebrated on the Christian calendar actually relate back to a pagan day.
Right, so basically you're saying, and this is all stuff that's coming from overseas, like from the early days and stuff like that. So this is stuff that, say, someone has brought over with them a different type of culture or different type of aspect or different way of looking at things, and they've just recruited more and more people as they went on. Is there still practicing groups out there, do you think, still in Australia?
Oh, definitely. I mean, anywhere you go, even in Australia, I mean, I would even say especially in Australia, there is a huge following, and it's not necessarily underground anymore. A lot of people don't talk about it, but
well, actually, I've got a request for that.
That's okay.
I mean, if there's any practicing groups out there, I've always found this very interesting. If you want to get in contact with me, I'd love to come out one night and check it out. I mean, I'm happy to stand back and sort of observe and watch, but take my microphone out with me and interview you actually on site. I mean, that would be absolutely fantastic. So if there is any groups within the Brisbane area, because this is where I'm based, where I do the show, if there's any practicing groups out there who listen to the show in witchcraft or something, and you have a special event coming up, and if it's okay, if it's all right, I'll bring out my microphone and record not so much the ceremony, because I think that's very personal, but your viewpoints on it.
I think it's a good idea because you cannot cover a subject like witchcraft or the occult in just 1 hour.
Oh, no, and be honest with you, I've only got about 7 minutes left of this hour too.
Yeah, that's the thing. You can only touch on different aspects. I mean, you really need to just pick one area and just try and fit as much as you can into it.
Yeah, and we'd also love to hear from other people as well, wouldn't we? Like other people who are practicing warlocks or witches, if they'd like to give me their viewpoint, either an email.
And we're not talking about just people that get together for a Harry Potter marathon.
No, I'm sorry, no, Harry Potter.
We love our Potter.
We do. we do, and mind you, I'm going to give it a plug out. Harry Potter's coming out on the. When's it coming out?
July, sometime.
July, sometime in Australia. Oh, isn't that terrible? I should know this. I'm a big...
Wait a sec, isn't it July now?
It is.
Oh, crap.
God. Oh, God. Oh, sorry, guys. It's late at night as usual.
It's sometime soon. The very last Harry Potter.
Yeah.
We should know. I should ask my husband because he follows it more than I.
And just to let you know that if you want to go and see Transformers Dark Side of the Moon, awesome. I saw it today. It was just brilliant.
Oh, that's great.
Oh,
I mean,
Michael Bay, I worship you. I loved it. I'm such a geek.
Since I haven't been to the movies for the last 16 months, ever since I had a baby, so
Uncle Brad will take care of it.
it's fine.
Uncle Brad loves
You
it.
watch all the good movies on the big screen.
I am such a geek. Anyway, guys, listen, we've got about now 5 minutes to go on the closing subject. Now, is there anything special now we've rabbled on? Is there anything special you want to mention before we pack up tonight? And personally, look, I'd like to thank Kylie for coming into the cardboard box tonight and to talk about this side of it. And she's more than happy to take any sort of look, if you'd like to email me first, I'll pass them on because she still wants her privacy and stuff like that. I can understand, and just whip it through to me and I'll screen them for you. Keep it nice and that, because she'll answer any questions she can and stuff like that. And if you go to the website and you look under GHA Team, you'll find all her details, the medium. She's also a very good medium as well. I mean, this is another side of the family. That's
Unfortunately, that's something I can't stop doing, the medium side, but at least the occult,
the witchcraft side.
I've kind of just, I just leave the room alone now.
Yeah, it's a fantastic room too. So if you have any questions regarding that, please let Kylie. Now, Kylie, about 3 minutes ago, before we've got to wrap it up tonight on the show, and thank you again for joining us.
No, thanks, Brad, for having me.
No, look, you're the first female I've interviewed on the show as well.
Well, you got to do something about that.
I am, man. And like I said, if anyone's got a great story out there or they want to get in contact with me, they think they've got a great story to go on the show, get in contact with me via the Facebook page. You can find me on Facebook. You can go find me on www.brad-scott.com. Get in touch with me. Give me your ideas. We have some really great guests coming up. And we've also got Weird News of the Week coming up soon as well, where everyone sort of really enjoys that, where I pay out on Wodsy all night.
Who?
Wodsy.
Who's Wodsy?
My counterpart, the guy who usually sits in your seat.
Ah, okay.
Wodsy.
I really got to listen to your show, shouldn't I?
Oh, isn't that nice? Oh, the pain. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You do listen. Stop it. And don't forget to tell your friends about Naked Zombie. We are Australian radio show.
He's got so many listeners.
And I like to think the best paranormal radio show. Yeah. Hey. We're up to number 11 now, so we must be the best. Well, I like to think we are, because we bring you interesting topics and subjects. Except when I waffle on for too long. Okay, listen.
Especially when he gets his sister in.
Yeah. Anyway, now you only got. Come on, what's going on? You've got 3 minutes to go. Come on.
Do you want me to armpit fart the national anthem or something? Is that what people do? Is that considered classy these days? I don't know.
It is, Kylie.
It's been a while since I've been from Gladstone, so
the armpit farts. Oh, that's rocking, baby. But anyway,
I have talent.
Yeah, you do. You have plenty. I say, guys, listen, we're going to wrap it up tonight. Listen, thank you again, Kylie, for coming onto the show. Sorry I had to waffle on a bit at the end there, guys. But
that's the problem when you get brother and sister together. They
just
reminisce.
Sort of
I'm sorry if we
lost you in the first 3 minutes of the show tonight. But thank you again. Listen, like I say, guys, you got anyone you want heard on the show, you've got any ideas, please send it to brad@scott.com. Go on the website, hit the contacts link, the page, you'll find it there, send it through to us. And like I said, we've got to go, so thank you tonight, Kylie.
Thank you, Brad.
Thank you. Okay. And listen, please have a good night, have a safe night. If you're going out investigating or whatever you're doing in the paranormal field, look after yourselves, think of others, and play it safe. Good night all.